Hello and welcome to a general introduction to features of Excel. So this is what Excel looks like when it first opens up. You'll see down on the bottom left we have one worksheet within the entire workbook. Each file is called a workbook. I have a folder here and it's got two workbooks, example file 1 and example file 2. So I have one of these open, example file 1. First few features that you need to know about. Across the top here are columns A, B, C, D, and they keep going for quite a long way. Eventually you run out of letters and they start to combine. You'll see AA, AB, AC. So if I come back to the very first top left section, I've now clicked in a cell called A1, column A, row 1. So that's called A1 and its name is here on the top left in the name box, A1. I can do various things. I can change the width. To do that, you have to move the mouse between A and B, and then the cursor changes to a vertical line with an arrow left and right. I can do the same thing for my rows. Again, it's got to be between 1 and 2. If I want to highlight a row, I have to hover over the 2, click 2 or 3. I can highlight multiple by clicking, holding, and dragging. And I can do various things like that. And Control Z, undo all of that. So that's a general introduction to cells and rows and columns. Next, I'd like to talk about certain patterns you can fill in. I'm going to make some numbers, type 1, push enter, 2. Now these numbers are going up by 2s. So I'm going to click and drag and highlight those 2. Now you'll see a dark line around the outside of cells A1 and A2. And in the bottom right, the very bottom right, there's a little black box. If I move my cursor above that, I can click it and I can drag down. And that will recognize my numbers are going up by 1, and if I let go, it automatically fills. That's a really, really useful way to get quick patterns filled. If I was to go up by 3s, 3, 6, 9, I could highlight that and drag down. And it automatically recognizes I'm going up in 3s. So long as it's got a repeating pattern, it'll keep going up. Next thing I'd like to introduce some basic formulae. So if I click in this cell and I go equals, that knows now that I'm typing a formula. And I can click cell A1 and it's saying use this number in a formula. And if I was to do addition plus B1, that's saying 1 plus 3, and I push enter and it says 4. If I drag this down, so I click cell C1, I can drag it down and it's going to fill a formula. If I click here as an example, it's adding A6 to B6 and the answer is 24. So I'll go through quickly. Equals, I could have 1 times 3, that's asterisk above the 8, so shift 8. 1 times 3 is 3. Next will be 2 times 6. You'll see various different formulae. I'll do division now. I'll go 1 divided by 3. That gets me a decimal. Drag down. You can see they're all going up by 1s. Addition, multiplication, division. Let's do subtraction. Equals, I can use my left key to move across rather than clicking if I want to, then minus, and then go all the way across to the far left. So that's 3 minus 2, drag down. A few other patterns that might be useful are dates. For example, if I put in today's date, 5th of September, push enter, it's clever enough to recognize that it's a date. I can drag that across and that will automatically fill in dates, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's got some options and I can read those and decide I only want weekdays, months, years. I can do all sorts of things. But there are more options than just numbers. So this worksheet now is full of information. If I want a second sheet, I can go down to the bottom and click plus, and that gets me a second sheet. So I now have sheet 1 and sheet 2 within the same workbook. Text that possibly doesn't fit in a box. So I'm going to write a sentence down here. Now you'll notice this example sentence it's in one cell. It's not in cell C15, it's in B15. I can double click column B and it will auto fit to the contents. That's not particularly good if it's a very long sentence. What I suggest you do is to wrap the text, and that will then make it all fit on one line. You could also change the height. So if I have example sentence again, I change the height, it doesn't necessarily wrap down until I wrap the text. That's hopefully enough to get you started. More to come in later videos.